Hey everyone, thanks again for joining in this week. This is actually our first call that we're going to be doing from now on every Monday at 3 p.m. We usually have our calls on Wednesday at 3 p.m., which we're going to continue, but Mondays are going to be more advanced calls. For the individuals out there that have already been in the industry a while and they're looking for advice, to further their career. So it's not going to be as much entry level, even though everyone can benefit from information on resumes and career guidance, interview prep, all that stuff. But these are going to be more for the advanced individuals out there that are looking to cover some of those topics. So today I'm very excited for this topic because I know it's something that I've experienced a bunch of times. I've pretty much almost at every corporate position I've been at, I've been in this situation where I wonder, when is the right time? How do you know it's the right time to leave your current company? So before we move on, guys, again, as always, please submit questions into the chat. James will take care of that and we'll address these halfway through the call. So anything comes up, please make sure you submit that from this moment on, because we're going to do a Q&A halfway through. And also, as a reminder, this will be recorded. So you can get this by subscribing to my YouTube channel, Unfiltered Medical Sales Coaching. We're also live today on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. And we're on every podcasting platform out there known to man. So if some of you miss it, please go on and subscribe to the YouTube channel so you get access to this. So to dive right in, guys, this topic, I know you've all been there. You're sitting there, you've been with a company for a while. You're starting to get that gut feeling, am I in the right place? So you're not alone, because I'm not going to shock anyone out there with this, I don't think, by saying for some of you that either just starting in the industry, or you could have been in there for 30 years, it's something that it's not one of those careers that it's likely that you're going to be at the same company for 30 years. It's just not likely, guys. I could be, surprising some of you out there. I'm not being negative. I'm just being very real. In my career, I had multiple jobs. I get 300 to 500 resumes every day from candidates all around the country. And when you look at the resumes, it's random that you see someone. It's very rare, that you see someone at one company their whole career. So it's okay. I mean, we're in an industry where there's a lot of change. There's things that you can't control. You could be the best rep. You could be a multiple President's Club winner. It doesn't matter. You still don't control the reimbursement of a product, or if a product goes off patent, or if the company decides to change the direction, through sales leadership. These are things that aren't your control. They're out of your control. So what happens is you have to find another position. Sometimes companies recruit you and offer you something that's too good to refuse, and you have to go to a new company because they're paying that much more, or they're giving you a promotion, or the overall opportunity is just better. So it's okay, guys, to be thinking, I might have to make a couple of career moves to different companies, or to understand that, because it's very normal. So don't feel that you have to be at one company your whole career, start from rep, get promoted all the way up to vice president, or whatever title your goals are, if you have to move to multiple companies to do that. So first thing we want to talk about is the early signs that it might be time to go. Now, the simple thing is you go with your gut. I mean, we're all there, guys. You're in your own situation. Everyone's situation is different, but a lot of times our gut tells us something's not right here. So you don't want to just go by that gut feeling and say, once something's not right, okay, time to leave. I got to get out of here. No, there's peaks and valleys in every job that you have. So don't get too overreactive. Look at the signs, some of the things that start happening. And if things start to pile up with multiple signs, multiple areas that we're going to talk about on this call, multiple red flags, then it's time to start looking. But just to start out, first thing to talk about is your territory. When companies start declining the size of your territory. They start shrinking your territory. A lot of times I have reps that have grew amazing territories. They're doing really well. And then the company cuts the territory in half and adds another sales rep. Now, that to me isn't always a sign. Now, you might be pissed off about that. I know I would be, because your commissions could shrink, but that could also mean that's signs of a company growing. And while you don't want to be in that situation where you lost half your territory because you built a lot of great relationships, there's going to be a lot of doctors both on the north and south side of your territory, where it's not like you could just cherry pick and take your best doctors to have when they're doing this. So you're going to lose doctors on one way or the other. It sucks. It's frustrating. Maybe it's something you can discuss with your manager, but that's something that it happens in a growth phase of a company, that if you're in there for the long term, you love everything else about what you're doing. It's one of those tough things that happens when you're working for a company. So you don't want to overreact just because your territory is shrinking, but if they start messing with your commissions, okay, for no reason, all of a sudden you're doing the same job, you're getting the same productivity, or even worse, you're bringing in more revenue to the company, and you're seeing more taken away from you. That's a red flag. Okay, I'm not saying that, again, this doesn't mean you leave today, but that is a sign that, okay, why are they messing with my money? Where is that money going? Now, typically, that money is going to pay in other departments or areas where they're struggling. Whatever's happening to that company, the bottom line, they need more money. So they're going to take it from other areas. And a lot of times it affects reps' pockets, which, again, it sucks. But that is a red flag to me. They should always be looking to reward and continue rewarding, high performing individuals. When they start cutting, especially for doing the same exact thing or bringing in more revenue and you're making less, that's sign number one. If there's no promotion opportunities, there's lack of growth. Now, that doesn't mean that every year they should have 50 different opportunities out there for you where you're able to grow. But if you're in a company where you see people in the same roles, or people are trying to get to another level, and there's just nothing in that area. Now, sometimes that happens. So sometimes the growth opportunities, take commitment and sacrifice for a rep, where they say, hey, the district manager, if you're looking to get into that role next, and there's just the manager's been there for 25 years, he's not going anywhere, he's comfortable. Now you might have to go a state away for a promotion. That happens a lot, guys. So you can't just say, well, there's no growth here because Bob, the manager, is not leaving. No, you have to make a sacrifice too. For a lot of those promotive positions, people make big sacrifices. They move across the country. I know individuals that, for some of the companies that I worked at that are worldwide, they go to different parts of the planet for months or for a couple years, and then they come back into another promoted position. So these are big sacrifices that sometimes need to be made. So the growth thing, yes, that is another red flag, but it's something that you can't be overreactive. You have to see the opportunity overall and what other opportunities are out there that might take sacrifice on your part. Next, you want to be able to distinguish what's a real red flag and what could be something that's more personal. For instance, if you're if you're burnt out, if you lost the passion to sell something. Now, this has nothing to do with the company, but it might be time for you to leave. If you're not waking up every day, I'm not saying we all get up every morning. I mean, that's just nonsense. That I don't care how good of big of a high performer you are, how much dedication you have. We all wake up some days, guys, and we just don't feel like going into a hospital. You don't feel like working with doctors some days. You don't feel like doing any job some days. I mean, that happens to everyone. But if it's a consistent burnout where you just don't bring energy to that position anymore. You're not excited to sell a product. You're bored. And this happens a lot with reps, especially when there's a lack of innovation in a certain department or area that a rep is selling. You're not always going to get a new product every quarter. Obviously it's never going to happen. It's very rare. But if you don't have the passion every day to sell something, or most days, then it's time to move on. Because why do that, guys? Why torture yourself? Because that's when money and everything else really is nonsense. It really doesn't matter. I mean, to me, money is one of the main drivers. I mean, that's why we work, because it provides you with a lot of other things that can make you happy in this world. But again, it's not everything. So if you have that, to me, that's the most important thing. You have to be happy in what you're doing, because you're not going to be good at it long term. You're going to start seeing the signs that your numbers are going to start to drop. You're going to get management on you anyway, because it's going to start reflecting in your progress and in your productivity. So if you get burnt out, and this is more of a long term, it's not waking up a couple days in a row, having a little less motivation, then you really got to seriously think about moving on. Because to me, there's nothing more important. When you love what you do, like they say, love what you do and you never have to work a day in your life. It's so true. If you really love what you're doing, then you don't have any reason to leave. But if you're constantly upset, definitely start thinking about, moving to a new role, because that's not a place where anyone wants to be. So next does come down to money. Okay. So this comes up every time. A lot of times, one of the issues that I have in our industry, they reward, and not all the time, but a lot of times companies reward people by leaving and going to another company. So what do I mean by that? When I started in the industry in pharmaceutical sales, you got maybe a 4 to 7% annual raise. So when you first start out and you're making only like 40, 50,000 a year, 4% is a couple thousand. That's not really going to move the needle too much and get you that excited, year over year to grow. And then you go to another company, and a lot of these companies, because I had many colleagues that left because they heard that, XYZ company is offering 20,000 more in your base. So if you've been in the industry a year or two, you go from 40 to 60,000. Now I'm going back, a few years. Obviously those numbers have changed to present day, but you go up 20,000 in one move. That could be like 7 to 8 years of promotions to get to that level. So a lot of reps, they do jump at that. And sometimes it's hard, and it could be much more than that. So you have to evaluate, is money worth it when, it is an extra 25 to go to the next company? Because you have to realize that doesn't mean it's going to be a better company. It means they're just paying you more. So I don't agree that a lot of companies do this where they reward people for hopping, and that happens. So when you see reps that have moved a couple times, excuse me, it could be because they just had offers that made them, jump a couple times. Now, I don't agree that you should keep doing that, because it's not going to help you on your resume. And sooner or later, it's going to come back to bite you, because companies are going to say, well, you're a job hopper. But I do understand that it does motivate you to go to to another team if they're willing to pay you more. I mean, we see this in every sports industry out there. Excuse me. Excuse me. So you'll have professional athletes that have been in a team for 5 to 10 years, and then all of a sudden another NFL team or NBA team is offering them 50 million more. Of course, they're going to take it. So just know, you have to think, is the money worth it to leave when companies do start approaching you? A lot of you might not even be that upset and just want to get feelers out there. You could get tempted because you're happy with your company, and now you got these better paying jobs out there. So you could be tempted to leave, but just be careful. You got to do your research, guys. This is a career move. Don't take it lightly, and don't do it just because you're going to get a few extra dollars. it's going to bite you in the ass, because I've seen it. I've had reps that have done that. They make a few extra dollars, but at the end of the day, guys, when they break down those, 26 payments a year, when you're getting biweekly payments, it's not that life-changing, excuse me, what some of these companies offer. So if it's a great move and everything else makes sense, 100% do it. But if it's just money, just be careful. You got to do your research, because you don't want to jump from the frying pan into the fire into something that's worse. Okay. Excuse me. You also have to evaluate the hidden cost that taking a new job takes on you as a rep. So it's very rare that you're going to get this new opportunity and then move right into a new territory, which is the same territory you're working in. For instance, if I'm selling a cardiology device in New York City, excuse me, cardiology device in New York City, and I'm going from one company to another, odds are if I'm going to walk into this perfect situation, most likely there's going to be a non-compete involved. Okay, so if there isn't, great. But very rare you're going to be able to take the whole book of doctors that you have a great relationship in a similar type of product, and then dive right into a great territory where you just ramp up quickly. It's usually a sacrifice. Either the doctors, the contacts that you had, you got to start over or build again. Because even some of those doctors that you have great relationships with the new product, that could change. They could still be your friend and like you, but they might not use your new product. They might say, Joe, I don't use that. I don't use X product. I use Y. And they could have a rep that they've been working with for 25 years. And that's why they use it, because they love the rep. They love the product. They never had a problem. Now you come in because you made 25,000 more in your base. Sorry, guys. And you're selling this product that a lot of the doctors might not even like. So you got to be careful there, because now you're going to start from the ground up again. You could be used to getting $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 monthly commissions. Now you're going back to zero. And they might have something set in place where they give you a guarantee after the first 6 months or year, but odds are you're going to have to start over. So you have to weigh that out. That is a huge, huge component when you're building something, and you got to jump and start back to zero. And a lot of times that's how they entice people with those higher base pays, but you pay for it somewhere. And usually it's in your monthly commissions or bonuses. So you want to make sure that it's worth it, guys, before you make that leap, because starting from scratch sucks. Building back up, it's a lot of fun when you do it and you're successful, but it's not something you want to do, every couple of years, because it takes, as you know, a lot of you out there that have built up amazing territories, it takes time and a lot of work to do that. So just be prepared that that's something that you will have to sacrifice when moving into a new role. Okay. When you go to these companies, that are knocking, so these other opportunities, how do you know? How do you really know if this is going to be better? How do you guarantee yourself it's going to be better? The answer is there is no guarantee. Okay, so I'm going to save you the suspense there. There's no guarantee, guys. So you have to make sure that you do your research. Now, one of the things that I didn't do until, later in my corporate life, where I didn't speak to friends that I know in finance that understand the financials of a company and really know how to read a quote unquote healthy company versus someone that's struggling. Now, if it's a publicly traded company, we can easily just look at the stock price and people make an assumption that this company's doing well or not. Guys, you don't want to do that. Number one, I'm not someone that pretends to know the longevity of a company or the health of a company just by looking at stock price and reading up on them for 5 minutes. I always like to go to people that are in that industry. Some of you probably have friends that but do network, ask people, talk to friends, start with the friends that you have that are in the financial sector that sometimes could be, they might even own stock in a company you're going into. But the whole point being, speak to people and get their advice. Tell them if they're a friend of yours, say, hey, I'm thinking of looking to go to this company. What do you think? What is this show for you? And I actually had friends that warned me about companies, but I was so excited for the role because of the product, getting more money. And I ignored a lot of their warnings. And it turned out that they were right. And I shouldn't have taken a couple opportunities because companies weren't in the best financial state. But again, and then there were times that, they, where you do cross your fingers and just take a chance, but you really don't want to do that, guys. You really want to make sure you do your research. Find out how healthy a company is. You could ask the managers, you could be straight up with managers in interviews and find out, ask some of those questions, not an interrogating, like negative tone, like, hey, is your company going to be here a year from now? No, obviously not. That individual works at the company. So odds are that they see positivity in that company for their career, but you want to have conversations, do your research. Don't just jump in because they sell a cool new product. And that the product is everything, guys. If it's not reimbursed, if the reimbursements suck, if it's not on a GPO, some of you that don't know what a GPO is, a group purchasing organization. So in the hospital space, if a hospital can't even buy this product, don't think you're going to be that good of a salesman to sell it, because you can't sell something that's not available. So you want to ask those questions in the interview. That's 100% legit, where you can, the company should be very transparent. Whoever you're interviewing with, find out how accessible that product is for the doctors. And when it is, then you have an equal playing field where the good reps, the top performers are going to get out there and you can do well. But if it's not available, if a product isn't on a GPO that encompasses your territory, for instance, New Jersey, there's a lot of accounts that use HPG as their GPO. I've had instances where I worked with candidates and helped consult with companies that reps just couldn't do well because they didn't have it on the GPO yet. So the doctors can't even use it. So I've been in that position myself. I had a lot of doctors, great relationships. Joe, I love the product. I'll use it tomorrow. Just work with the purchasing team to get it, available in the hospital. And that's a long, long process, guys. Your company will be working on that. You obviously can assist, but at the end of the day, if it's not on GPO, they're not going to be able to use it. You're not going to be able to sell anything. So you want to ask those questions when you're interviewing for a different company. This is where it has to be a two-way street, guys. You can't just sit there and be the nervous candidate, hoping that you're doing well, feeling that you're being graded the whole time. You gotta question them too and ask them, because you're making a big career change. You need to know that information. So without that, you cannot move on to your next position, because I don't care if they offer you $200,000 more. If you can't sell it, you will be looking for a new job within a year. So make sure you're asking those questions. And I can obviously dig deeper. Any of you that reach out, we could get into deeper conversations that are much more complex, because it's not as easy as just GPO or not. But we could talk about your specific needs, because this is something that does come up every time. And it's something that you have to be aware of every time, because you don't want to go into a worse situation. So make sure the coverage and reimbursement is there, whatever new product. But that only comes with doing the research and really digging deeper. Is this new opportunity just, smoke and mirrors with a bigger base? Or is this a real long-term play that I should be taking? Next is trying to map out a longer career plan. It's not easy. Guys, every time I've done this, things change in life. I always had a plan that I think I'm going to be doing this in the next 5 years, and things change, sometimes for the better. There's a lot of times that things worked out much better than I thought they would, and it pushed me in directions that I never thought I would get into. So you got to go with the flow no matter what life throws at you, but you also want to see what the plan is long-term at a company. Now, a lot of times it's hard. It's not that easy. They're not going to be able to just map out a 10-year plan for you and then sign a contract. Most of these are at-will employments where you could be let go anytime. I mean, that's what you sign. So if any of you guys have never seen an at-will employment form or contract, you'll see essentially the company has a right to end the relationship, the professional relationship, pretty much at any time. So they're never going to be able to guarantee you a 10-year. They're never going to give you a contract for a 10-year guarantee. But you want to see, number one, the reps in that company that have been able to progress, and talk to those reps that have been at the company a few years. A huge thing that everyone should be doing, and this is a must, absolute must, whenever you're looking at a new company, look at the tenure of the reps that are there. If you see when you're interviewing for a new company, it could be the greatest product of all time. Everyone's so excited for a new product to come out. This company's been around a few years, and you see that every rep has been there year and a half, 2 years, 8 months. That's a bad sign, guys. That means there's something going on there. But when you see reps that have been at companies 5, 8, 10, 12, 15 years, you know that that's a great company to be at. Because people don't just stay around just because of for loyalty's sake. The company must be doing something right to keep these reps to stay there. Because the good reps, again, people reach out. There's times that you work out to people with people in the same industry, in the same field. Companies are going to start coming after good reps to make them better deals, to entice them with more money. And a lot of these individuals, they don't leave when they're at a great company. So that is the first thing, that when you're looking at a new company and you feel like, all right, this is the time to get my feelers out there, you have to look at the tenure of the reps. You're also having conversations. You're talking to reps throughout the interview process, like we always teach, that you want to be having at least 3 conversations before every interview, before you're actually speaking to that manager, if you can. But these are some of the questions that you want to ask. But nothing, doesn't matter. They can be nice because you're asking them and they're afraid you're going to go back and tell the manager what they said. So sometimes they'll just be nice to be nice. But one thing they can't make up is their tenure. That speaks volumes to me. If they've been there for years, they obviously like it there. So that's something that you have to evaluate and see at this new company before you take the chance. And then a lot of you, because what's going to happen a lot when it comes to startups, a lot of you are going to say, well, how do I do that when it comes to a startup? It's a new company. And the answer is you have no idea. Startups are big risk, big reward. A lot of people have done incredibly well in startups. They make a ton of money, especially if it's a publicly traded company later on. They get stock options, all that stuff that comes with it. But it is a risk. So you're never going to really know. And again, this is where you ask your financial friends, people that are also could be in the industry, ask for some of the advice. What are some of the things that they're looking at when they're evaluating, to even make an investment with a company? But finding out how financially strong a startup is key to find out. You need to know how much funding they have, because a lot of times reps do not ask this. What's going to happen, and this is a very real scenario, they're going to offer you a higher position. They're going to offer you a title that sounds great, especially with a startup. You're going to see a lot of VPs out there. There's a lot of that makes a young individual feel amazing. They went from being a sales rep to now being a vice president of a company. And it's like, well, that's great. You're a vice president of 2 other people that work there. So why not just call you the CFO or the CEO? I mean, those titles, guys, you have to be careful, because companies do this a lot. They entice you with a title. Sometimes they do this with promotions too, just as a side note, where they offer you a title change. You feel great. I just got promoted. I went from rep to district manager, or district manager to regional director. That's great. Did it come with any more money? Did it come with more opportunity? Or was it just a title that they gave you? So you have to be careful, guys. Don't just be enticed when you're looking for a new role just because they gave you a big title, especially with a startup. Because the startups, it is what it is. It could be a monster in a year. It could fold within 6 months. but don't just jump just because of a title. They can call you any title you want to get you excited. It's about the overall role. What does the overall opportunity really entail? Don't be excited just because you're a VP now. So we're going to take a break with that comment and open it up to the crowd for Q&A. James, do we have any questions?
Yeah, we got a couple.
Awesome.
Let me pull them up right here. When considering a move, how much weight should you give to comp plan versus culture versus manager?
Well, for me, if you're number one, the manager, if you're in an interview and you're speaking to someone that is just throwing off red flags left and right, it's a personality that you just can't stand. For me, someone that's just too stiff, has like too much of a militant demeanor, little condescending, arrogant. Those are all red flags to me. I don't care what they pay me. There's nothing worse than being with a terrible manager. And it could be a manager that's a great manager, but you just don't see eye to eye. It's not worth it because you have to work. It's almost, to me, it's like getting married to someone that you don't have anything in common with and thinking you're going to have a good marriage. I mean, your managers, for some of you out there, you know, some of us in the work world, we're with some of our work colleagues more than we're with our spouses, you know, so you're going to be with this individual a lot. You're going to be talking to them every day. You're going to be in field rides with them. If you don't get along with them, do not make the move. If you get those, gut feelings throughout, red flags that you don't like through the interview, don't take the job. Forget about the pay and everything else. You'll be miserable and you won't be there that long because you're not going to want to deal with that person. So to me, that is the initial sign that if it's red flags all over, don't move forward. But if things are going well, the overall comp is way more important than, say, a higher base. Because a lot of times they tempt people. All sales reps, they say, I don't care. I'm there for the overall package that they're giving me. A lot of you guys say that, but a lot of people get tempted with a higher base because they know that's guaranteed money coming in. And companies know that. So they could be actually, the cost per rep could be less with that company that's offering a higher base because the overall plan the potential is not there to make the money. So for me, it's the overall opportunity. If you have an opportunity where they're going to give you less base, for me, I'd rather have no base and just have all commission, especially if it's a product that I know I could sell and it could do well. I want the opportunity to really blow the roofs off. I don't care about the base as much. So it's the overall opportunity that is most important. So if you see eye to eye with that manager, go towards that overall opportunity. Don't just jump towards that higher base.
Okay. We got is leaving for a bigger title always a smart move, or can that backfire?
100% not always a smart move, and it could definitely backfire. So like I was saying before with startups, it's something that they get a lot of reps that are, a lot of times, especially will come from someone that's been a rep for a while and gets enticed with more money and then the opportunity to be a leader and be a manager. So like I was joking before, but it does happen where they give you the VP title and you're the vice president of 3 reps. I mean, that's not really a vice president. For me, territory managers, they manage 3 to 4 clinical sales specialists or clinical specialists. Excuse me. They're managing 3 people and they're still a territory manager. So don't care so much about the title. If you cared that much, start your own company, create your own LLC and make yourself the CEO. Because that's how much titles really mean. It's the overall opportunity. And does this product, is it available? Do you think it would sell well? When you speak to your doctor friends, excuse me, ask them, especially if you have experience in a field, if it's for cardiology or for pain, talk to your pain specialist, talk to your cardiologist and see the potential of this product. Because they might say, Joe, I think this product sucks. I'm never going to use it. But if you have multiple contacts saying, this is great, I could see the benefits, I would use this here, I would use that there. Now it's time to get excited. So finding out that research first, that's more important. Ignore the titles, guys, because I'm not saying never leave because of a title, or because some companies do promote from outside the company and it's a good opportunity, then take it. But don't just jump just for a title, because it will backfire. It can backfire, excuse me.
So I have a question that's not really transferring jobs, more interview directed. Would you like me to ask that from the audience?
Yeah, sure.
So Ashley DeLeo Van Horn, at what point of the process is it appropriate time to ask for the job during interviews?
Well, you're always asking. So for me, I'm always evaluating. Number one, you're finding out the interview process and how many stages, what does the process look like? Now, some of us that have been doing this a while, I'm sure some of you have been a part of interviews that have gone 5, 6, 7 interviews. They're grueling sometimes. So you want to understand the process first and always make sure you're closing for the next step in the process. But if you're there with the person that is making the decision, you don't want to ask the HR personnel that's doing the first interview that, can I have the job? When they specifically told you at the beginning of the interview, they do not make that decision. It's going to be made by Susan, the district manager. That you don't want to just ask that to anyone and everyone that you speak with. You want to ask them if you have, their backing, their approval that you would do well in this position. Do you have their support to tell the district manager that you're the right fit for this role? Those are the kinds of questions you can ask. You don't want to ask those people, can I have the job? But it's okay to be in front of that district manager, and then talk. If they're the person that's hiring, it's okay to ask at that time. But if they say, I'm not going to be able to make that decision, it's got to go to my VP first, and next we're going to meet with the VP next Thursday, then it's okay to close for the next stage in the process, because they specifically told you they don't make that final decision. It's got to go to the VP first. Okay, that's fine. You want to hear your customers too, guys. Don't be so robotic and say, well, I'm a closer and I'm just going to ask. No, because it shows you're not listening. So listen first, but it's okay. Once you're in front of that person, they say they're the decision maker. It's okay that after that interview, only after you've addressed if they have any red flags, if there's any apprehension, you want to make sure they have no objections. And if they do have an objection, you handle that objection first before you go into the close. You don't jump in for that close to just, to get it when there's still an objection out there. So once you've done all that, absolutely, it's okay to ask for the job.
Okay. We got, what's your opinion on reps job hopping every 1 to 2 years? Does it help or hurt long-term?
It hurts. So while I think it's very real, this day and age, like I said at the beginning of the call, there's not going to be one job that someone lasts for 30 years at. It's rare. So you're going to be going to multiple companies throughout your career. But if you're constantly jumping yourself, if you're the reason every 2 years that, I left this company because of this, and then I left that company because of that, sooner or later, it's going to bite you in the ass. It's okay, though, to say, well, Joe, you had 3 jobs in 5 years. Why? Well, I was a part of 2 layoffs. And then I also had an opportunity for a promotion for the third company. Okay, those make sense. Things that are out of your control. If you've been laid off 5 times, guys, it's not your fault, you weren't fired, then what could they possibly say? They know that it's a volatile industry and then things happen. But if you're constantly saying, I left because I was unhappy, or I left because of this, it's just normal that a hiring manager is going to be apprehensive to say, why the heck would I hire this person? He's going to do the same thing to me. So you don't want to have that every couple of years because you're not being patient enough with the progression, or there's always, it usually is something that's wrong with the rep. If they're constantly going to companies, they're not seeing the success they want. You got to look at yourself first. If you've been at 5 companies over 7 or 8 years and you're not getting promoted, you're not making the money you want to make, and you're constantly blaming the companies you were at, odds are it's you, guys. So you have to take ownership of that and take a personal inventory of what are you doing wrong? What are you doing right? And is it you, and fix you before you just jump and say, I'm ready to go to another company again. You don't want to keep doing that, because even though companies understand that it's a industry where there's constant change, volatility, like I said, you will get, because I get this all the time. I get companies, when they send me a job posting, they'll put in there no job hoppers. And so if I keep sending reps over that have left their job every 1 to 2 years, they're going to say, Joe, we're not going to send you any more jobs if you don't listen to what we want. So recruiters won't send you over if you constantly have that on your resume. Again, sometimes it makes sense. It's out of your control. That's okay. You can't control that. But if you're constantly hopping and try to find the better opportunity instead of staying put and trying to build something and grow within a company, then yes, it is a red flag.
What are the top 3 red flags that a rep has outgrown their current territory or company?
When you see, well, the first big red flag, when someone that's really growing and doing well and you're a high performer, and you let it be known first that you are interested for leadership opportunities. Because there are reps out there that don't want it. They say, screw this. I don't want to babysit other reps. I want to do my own job. I'm kicking ass in my role. A lot of times reps, they take a pay cut going into a DM role if they're really killing it with their territory out there. So when I was younger and I saw guys with gray hair and they're a sales rep, I'm like, why are they doing this still? Why do they still want to carry a bag? And then you find out that guy's making 2 or 3 times as much as some of the directors and, some of the higher level individuals at that company, because they built such an amazing territory, and the company's bonus structure is beneficial to the rep, where they don't want to leave. So sometimes you do have to take a pay cut for that. So you might not want that opportunity, but if you let it be known that you want the promotion, you want to get into sales management, you're doing everything right. You're kicking ass in your number, quarter over quarter, multiple years, President's Club winner, or whatever, you're winning awards, and opportunities are out there that you're constantly getting passed over, then it might be time to go, guys, because you never know what relationships individuals at a company have. I mean, it happens. There's sometimes that the vice president could be friends with one of the reps that is doing well, but not doing as well as you, and you get passed over because they got a tighter relationship. It could happen. I'm not saying this happens all the time, but when you're being passed over, there's opportunities for you to grow, and they know that you want that management position, and they're still not giving you the opportunity. First thing, I was always very direct. Have a conversation. Find out why. What's happening? You want it, especially if they knew ahead of time. Definitely have those conversations. Don't be afraid. You're having these conversations with doctors. Do the same with management. Let them know, like, hey, I want this. What is happening? Or what's the next opportunity available for me to set up a time frame. Speak to your manager, speak to your director. So have those open conversations. Be transparent. Don't be nervous. Don't say, I'm just going to keep my head down and keep doing what I'm doing. You're going to do that anyway. If you're kicking ass, you're a high performer and you're doing everything right, it's normal to want to get promoted. If that's your prerogative, then have the conversations. But if they're ignoring you after that, then it's definitely a red flag.
I think that was only one of the 3 flags. Do you have any 2 other flags?
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed that flag.
It's all right. 2 other red flags.
So another big red flag is companies constantly, I'm laughing, sorry. I'm getting old, man. companies constantly changing direction in what the game plan is. So if they're focused going after a certain therapeutic area or a certain case, and then 3 months later, now they totally abandoned that approach and now they're going over here. It's okay at the beginning when companies are trying to find their way. That's normal. But when companies are struggling in a direction and then are pivoting and then pivoting 3 months later and constantly pivot, that means this company just, the product isn't doing well. Everything, behind the scenes, they're starting to scramble. So when you get that scrambling feeling, that wait, we were just focused last month doing one thing. Now our focus is totally going from, calling on pain specialists to calling on plastic surgeons, say. That should be a red flag because they shouldn't be so reactionary. That means there's a lot of issues going on and their original game plan did not work and they're pivoting. But if they constantly are pivoting, huge red flag. So that's number two. The last thing is more common sense. It's more direct. You see people leaving, especially when you start to see the higher the titles, when they're starting to move, and usually odds are they know what's going on more than you do, guys. So if you have your gung-ho VP that all of a sudden now is working for a different company, I'm not saying that they didn't have reasons. He could have been, poached from whatever, XYZ company to come there with a great opportunity. But a lot of times when you start seeing that movement, this is the time where you got to have that upfront conversation with your manager. They might not always be upfront. They might still, drink the Kool-Aid and tell you, oh, everything's great, Joe. Don't worry about it. Keep your head down. But you'll start to get that vibe that something's not right when you start seeing upper management leave. And at the very end, guys, I know you only asked for 3. Your gut, it's the same as being in a relationship and, the relationship isn't going well. And before having a conversation, in your gut, something's not right. It's the same thing. Your gut tells you this isn't right. There's too many red flags. So definitely if those 3 things happen, it's time to start looking.
Okay. Well, he gave you 4, ladies and gentlemen. This is why he hires me to keep him on track. You would only got 1 if it wasn't for me, guys.
When I don't listen, I throw in a bonus.
How do you balance wanting more money, title, better manager versus staying patient and building depth where you are?
Well, if you're really growing something, that's something it's a tough one because it's such a case-by-case basis to make that decision. There's times where, for instance, if you're in the hospital space, it takes a long time to get things done. You have to learn, and for a lot of you hospital reps out there, you know what I mean, where I used to celebrate the small wins. Excuse me. If you don't celebrate your small wins every day or every week or month, you'll go crazy because if you're just waiting to get a purchase order on certain products that are hundreds of thousands or sometimes in the $1 million price range for capital sales, you'll freak out because sometimes it takes a couple of years to get some of those deals done. So you have to know you might not be making money today, but is the grass greener long-term? Are you working on a couple of deals that can bring in substantial dollars that you might not see for 6 months or a year? That happens. So you have to weigh that out. So only you would know that, but it's really taking the overall business that you built and is it continuing to go that way? Is your product really being well accepted? Because a lot of times when you come out with a new product, when a company comes out with a new product, you get out there, you're all gung-ho, doctors are great, they love, then all of a sudden sometimes bad things start happening and the product isn't as good as you thought it was. And you start to get that information too, where it's not really being, it's not as successful for the one area that they thought it would be in. So you got to take that knowledge and then say, is this sustainable? Is this a little blip in the radar? Or can we, move on and be successful in other areas? If not, then you move on. So I know it's a long-winded answer, but it's very tough. You have to look at the overall opportunity and is the product being continuing to be accepted for you to stay on to make less quarterly or monthly bonus for now, but is it going to be much better in the future? And if not, then obviously it's time to go.
So we have 10 minutes left, Joe. I have a couple more questions, but I don't know if you had anything else that you wanted to cover before we got into those, or if you want to just jump right into the questions.
The last thing again was, which I had in my notes, but it really does come down to your gut, guys. Go with your gut. I mean, I know that's not what you want to hear, as you want some secret message, but your gut is always right. And you don't want to be overreactive. Let things play out. Generally, for me, any role I suggest you stay 2 years for, because though anything less than 2 years, you're not giving it enough time. You might know earlier, but again, you still have to weigh out that this constant hopping from role to role, but give it the 2 years. Companies understand if things don't work out in 2 years, you gave it enough time, but you don't want to just jump in, be overreactive. You want to go all in your next role, and I hope it's your last role, but go with your gut, but don't be overreactive. That's the last piece of advice. Stay the 2 years before you decide to just keep hopping. But yeah, definitely we could take those questions. That was the last piece of advice.
Okay, cool. I just didn't want to jam you up with all the questions if you had more to cover. We got, how should reps handle getting recruited while still trying to stay focused on their current quota?
Well, I think it's not that hard, guys. I mean, it's not like you're running for president and every night, because you're being recruited by other companies, there's not going to be 50 companies. I mean, I hope there are for you. If you got that many companies that are chasing after you and you can't do your job, then you are a very special individual. And I want to learn from you how the heck you're doing this. So usually it's a company. Typically the way this works is you're working, say, in the cath lab, and there's multiple companies that are in that cath lab. You see managers coming in and out, different reps that that you're not really competing with. Some you are. And it becomes a small world where these guys start to know you. So then they start saying, hey, Joe, I got an opening in Central Jersey. I think you'd be a fantastic addition. Let's talk. They sit down and then they start saying, hey, we could pay you a lot more if you come here. Okay. It's something to really think about, and you could have a conversation. But if that really derails you from doing your job, then there's something wrong. So it shouldn't be that much time that you have to take away from your job. That's still your job. That's what you get paid to do. That's your priority. But you could still look around and see what else is out there and have those conversations where it's not going to take you 8 hours a day to decide if you want to go to another company. If you're doing that, I don't know what you're doing. So definitely the two shouldn't interact. I mean, they shouldn't affect each other. So number one, your job is still your focus, but at the end of the day, in the car ride, in between accounts, I mean, you have plenty of time as a sales rep to evaluate these things, to have conversations, to learn more. And also companies, they're not going to wait around. If a manager has an opening, they're not going to say, Joe, take the next 2 quarters to think about this and then get back to me. No, they're going to want to know within a timely manner of probably a couple of weeks, because it might be an opening that's going to happen, or even shorter term. If it just happened, they're not going to wait for you for months to make a decision. They're going to say like, hey, do your work now. You're going to put in some time doing that, which shouldn't be that long. It could be a couple hours of research and conversations where you're able to make a decision. So if it's affecting you, you're doing something wrong. Your company, where you're at right now, because they pay your bills, should come first, but you'll still have plenty of time to evaluate a lot of those, some of those other offers. Because realistically, it's going to be 1 or 2 offers that are going on at the same time. If it's any more than that, God bless you. You're doing everything right. And please call me and tell me, how you're doing this, because I would love to learn.
We got how do you leave a company without burning bridges, especially in a tight industry like med device?
Yeah, I mean, you want to just be respectful. Whenever you're quiet, secretive, that usually tends to be where problems they arise. Where or you're mad because your manager was a bastard to you, and now all of a sudden you want the whole company to pay, so one day you just ghost them, say that's like the worst thing you can do. Don't even give them a 2-week notice. Just one day you just call and say, hey, I'm gone. Find someone else to come get the equipment. I'm going to mail it. Give me the address. I'll send it in. I mean, obviously most people don't do that, but it does happen. So as long as you're being transparent, excuse me, especially if they're giving you a better opportunity, companies should get that. I mean, this happens all the time, guys, but typically you're giving your 2 weeks. And just as a side note, guys, they don't have to give you 2 weeks just because you're giving your 2 weeks. So just be careful. Some of you out there, because I've had this before where there were individuals that had nothing going on in their territory. And then they're disgruntled. To be honest, I had a few reps that weren't that good. And one individual gave us her 2 weeks and we let her go that day because there was nothing going on in their territory. There was nothing they had to transfer over. So just be careful. Some of you could say, I'm going to give my 2 weeks. If you have nothing going on, they do have the right. The company has the right to say, no, today's your last day. It's okay to part ways. And if they did that, that's fine because you were respectful to them. So just be respectful, give that timely manner. If there's anything that needs to be transferred over, and be helpful, guys, do that because you don't want to burn a bridge. Even if you can't stand the manager, say, I got these cases going on the next 2 weeks. Let me introduce whoever, I'll introduce you or whoever's going to fill in for me, to Dr. Jones, to Dr. Barrett, or whoever the doctors are. And then set up a nice transition so that when you do that, guys, they might be upset that you left, but that just means they're upset because they lost someone good. So as long as you transfer over the accounts, the relationships, and any outstanding cases that are going on, there's really nothing they can do. If they're mad at you after that, that's their problem. At the end of the day, you were respectful and transferred everything over. I wouldn't be too concerned about that, especially if you're going to a better opportunity. You did everything you could.
All right. I got what's more valuable for your future career, experience in a big name company or results in a tough territory?
It's a good question. I mean, for me, they're not going to know that you got results in a tough territory. They're going to go by you saying that. Now, it's very rare. It could happen where a hiring manager knows that a certain area in a certain therapeutic field is always tough. I'm making this up, but say Boston for neurology, that area, it's very tough because to get drugs on formulary or to get a device on the GPOs up there with contracts, it's very difficult. So the fact that you did this, that's amazing. I wish everyone really knew that much about every territory to say, wow, I could just tell by this resume, you were in a difficult territory and you brought results. I think it's always going to be, if you can bring results at multiple companies, and that's the common denominator, everywhere you go, you're a high performer. That's always going to trump anything else out there, the name of the company and, what have you. But it does happen, guys, where, I actually had an individual last week that had good experience, sent him over to a colleague that I thought would be a good fit. And they're like, Joe, I honestly, I don't even know the names of some of these companies. I need more well-known names in the industry. And sometimes that's valid because they know that you've been well-trained and you're working for a rock star company out there. And sometimes it's not. But I would say overall, results, always have results. If you have results, depending on if it's a tough territory or not, I always want that individual over just a big name company. But that's just me. But I think that's safe to say. They're never going to say, Joe, sorry, I don't know these companies. But even though that you've been showing high results everywhere, I'm not going to hire you, they're still going to have a conversation with you knowing that you've had, or they should, you had all this success throughout your career. So always focus on the results, whether it's a tough territory or not. That should get you, that should trump any of the well-known companies out there.
Well, that was a great question to end it on, Joe. That was the last one that we got.
That was good. That was good. So guys, I appreciate all your input. I appreciate the questions. Again, moving forward, this is going to be recorded on YouTube. So if you missed it, please go on there, subscribe, Unfiltered Medical Sales Coaching. For any of you lobby members out there, please remember the promo code for today. If you're looking for one-on-one coaching, and this is for any individuals out there listening, definitely reach out to me, send me a message, and we could set up a time to discuss your personal problems or your challenges that you're having. But if you are a lobby member, for additional discounts, use the promo code Licata, Licata, and you'll be able to get additional discounts. So when you reach out, please use that promo code. Also, as a reminder, guys, every Monday, 3 p.m., we're going to be doing some of these advanced topics. Feel free to message me if there's something you'd like for me to talk about, because I get a lot of the topics we talk about from candidates that are struggling or they are looking for advice. So please share. There's no topic that's off the table. Share anything, because we're going to be doing those advanced topics on Mondays. And again, I'd love for all to be on the Wednesday call too, which is not going to be just entry level, but a little bit more of a common denominator of topics, from breaking in to somebody who's looking to advance in your career, whether it's interview, resume, career guidance, all that. So every Monday and Wednesday, 3 p.m., guys, look forward to seeing you. Thank you again. And I hope you guys have a great week. Take care.